I just interviewed Tyler Cook. He goes by TCaptainX online. He's a full-time Call of Duty content creator and now an online personal trainer. We talked about how storytelling made his basic gameplay go viral, how he built 2 creator businesses from one audience, and how creators can best take care of their physical and mental health. I'm Dylan. I interview professional creators so that you can learn from their stories and mistakes and become a full-time content creator yourself. And if you are a creator and you've ever felt overwhelmed, stuck in your chair, and unsure how to turn views into income, you're going to get a lot out of this episode. So without further ado, hope you enjoy my conversation with Mr. TCaptainX. Mr. Tyler, Call of Duty is a very popular competitive space. And so I'm very curious as to how you have been able to carve out your own unique path and lane within it.
Yeah, Call of Duty, it's interesting, and I'll fully admit I think there was a timing component that helped me massively grow. Call of Duty, has been around forever. It's been huge, but in the content space, it absolutely just blew up like crazy in 2020. With COVID, TikTok was on the rise. YouTube Shorts came out shortly after, and everyone was stuck at home with COVID, and a lot of people were gaming and were on their phones and on things like Twitch and YouTube a lot more. And so for me, it was really a passion thing just because I loved Warzone so much early on in gaming. I've always been a gamer. And I was just like, I might as well, I was watching people like Ninja just blow up and, have hundreds of thousands of viewers. And I'm like, man, I can't imagine what that would be like to play video games for a living. And at the time I was a full-time registered nurse working night shift and dealing with COVID patients and whatnot. I was stressed out and wasn't loving my career path at the time. And so, I just started making really simple content and clips, and it was horrible when I started. And like anything with kind of the way I take things, I kind of get a little bit obsessive about things that I really like and enjoy. And I got really obsessive with wanting to create better content. And so it was just in my free time, the only thing I was thinking about was either how do I get better at Call of Duty and how do I make better content. And so I was consuming so much editing, like how to edit, how to make, captivating storytelling, watching other creators and trying to figure out what things they did that made me enjoy their stuff so much. Just eventually one thing led to another, and we had a few viral videos on almost all short form platforms. So TikTok and then YouTube Shorts. Really wasn't doing any long form. Streaming was, it was doing okay, nothing crazy. But just eventually that momentum kept building and building and building. And I mean, in the early days of YouTube Shorts, I was one of the most dominant YouTube Shorts creators in the Call of Duty space. I was probably easily would have been a top 5, maybe top 10 in terms of total views from YouTube Shorts specifically. And so leveraging off that and, just making content that I enjoyed that I thought was funny or helpful to others, I just eventually built a community and eventually allowed me to quit my nursing job and, do content and play Call of Duty full time for a living.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's the dream so many people have, right? Like getting paid money, good money to sit and play video games, the thing that you would do for free and do for free for so many hours. And there's a lot to unpack here. I would love to hit on one of the things that you mentioned in that sort of nutshell of a story, which was you posted, it sucked, and you eventually, you obsessed about it to figure out what to improve until eventually, having a few viral hits and really building some momentum. And so what specifically sucked about the, I'm sure if we pulled it up here, we could just like cringe together at all of the, But what actually sucked about it? And then what did you learn to improve in that content that led you to this momentum?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, at first, it was just, I just needed to start posting to get comfortable with like how to post, how to just cut clips together in an editor. And so probably my first 5 to 10 posts were literally just highlight clips. And there was zero editing besides cutting and putting things together. And, at the time I was a decent player, but I wasn't like some top level caliber competitor. And I knew that just purely off my gameplay alone, it was not going to be enough to drive a ton of views and whatnot. And so it was really just watching the other people that were kind of going viral at the time. And some early inspiration to me was people like in the Call of Duty space, Lucci, Sally is a dog. Those were the other guys that were really crushing it in the short form space. And what they did better than anyone else was storytelling. Is they were breaking down clips that, would seem to be for the average person, it would just be like kind of a cool moment. But when the storytelling factor and editing was, layered on top of it, you were just like glued to it. You're like, what's going to happen? And, the ability of being a good storyteller is you can make something very mediocre seem extremely epic. And so for myself, some of my first early, very viral videos were actually some of the most basic, simple clips. And when I watch back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I over dramatized this. But it went viral because of the storytelling and editing aspect. And so I also, something early that I heard early on in kind of my, I guess, career of this was Mr. Beast had made a comment that said, when you start, your goal should be every video you make should be a little bit better than the last. You've probably heard that before. And so that's what I just started doing. In every single video, I wanted to learn some new technique, some new, a better hook, a better storytelling kind of flow, a better editing process, sound effects, transitions, whatever it may be. And I was just adding to my tool belt kind of how to make videos better and better. And then you kind of see, okay, this video flopped. It didn't work. You look back on it. Yeah, okay, this wasn't good enough of a hook. It wasn't captivating enough. And then you kind of eventually settle into what your niche is. And for me, it was always a combination of storytelling, kind of dramatizing, making moments seem very epic, or educational. How do you get better at the game? How do you learn something and take away from it? I wanted to give value to my audience. And so it was either be amazed and wowed by this moment, or have something tangible you can take away and apply to your own game.
Cup of Joe 5 broke down gaming content into 3 sort of aspects or components when it comes to a creator: skill at the game, entertainment quality, and educational quality. Like, how well can you articulate to others how to improve or how to learn something about this? And I just heard a combination of all 3 of those in what you just shared. And in the entertainment piece, right, you've said this now 2 or 3 times, you have a heavy emphasis and put a heavy emphasis on storytelling. Mm-hmm. And so how do you craft a story when you're scripting or editing? And maybe if you can think of like an example that comes to mind of this pretty simple, not very wow, like captivating moment that just telling a story behind it made it 10 times better.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that about Joe. So that Joe and I are very good friends, and we go way back in the content space, and both him and I have bounced so many ideas off each other. And, Joe, for example, he's really niched down into the educational content, and I've kind of spread myself across the 3, kind of more in the entertainment / education. Hopefully my skill's decent enough, but I know it's not S tier. I would say from a storytelling perspective is the number one thing you can do is create curiosity in the beginning or in the hook. And so one of my first super viral videos on TikTok that I think this video alone, I gained well over 100,000 followers. The actual clip itself, literally all it was there was somebody who was on my UAV. So I have my little ping where this guy is, and he's just sitting kind of in a hallway, and I knew he was there based off the UAV, and I just jump around. And I hit a very simple kind of quick scope. So the clip itself was like, okay, it was cool. But at the beginning of the video, I set it up with, some curiosity thing where it's something along the lines of, I pop the UAV and there is this guy, and I'm trying to even recall exactly because I know it was a little bit better than there was more curiosity to it. It's been so long. It's been years. It was probably 2020. But that's the whole thing is whatever happens, you're setting up. And so another example I have would be a very kind of epic clip that I had that also went very viral, which actually was with Joe. Joe and I were playing together, and I made a mistake, and Joe died because of this mistake, right? And so I create the hook was this mistake led to my greatest Warzone clutch ever. And so I say that Joe goes down. Joe's like raging a little bit, and it was my fault. Like it was 100% my fault.
He deserves it.
And but because I've dropped that early line, everyone is like, well, what mistake and how is this your greatest clutch? One of my other, one of most viewed videos on YouTube is it's the zone is completely closing. The video starts as the zone's completely closing. What am I going to do? And it's like, bam, okay, what is this guy going to do? How is he going to win this game? Obviously, if he's posting this, he's going to win it. And so the viewer just wants to stay to the end. So creating that engagement in the beginning where the viewer wants to see that payoff at the end, and that there is a payoff at the end, is probably the number one thing you can do. Even if your storytelling throughout is minimal, but you've created enough engagement early on, you can get someone to stay. And through basic, just social media metrics is, watch time, and now for shorts is swipe through rate. So basically when the video comes across, how many people are instantly swiping within the first few seconds. And then that also combined with how many people are watching the entire video, those are like the biggest metrics it comes down to if you can create that.
I love this. And I love your take on this because in Grindstone, we've talked a lot about the curiosity gap, like everything that you just laid out. And I realized a while back that I was having trouble sort of operationalizing that, like how to create curiosity. Just like, you got to create curiosity. Just like, okay, but how? Like, what does that mean? What do I do? What do I not do? And at least the best way that I've come up with up until now, and you said it in so many words in what you just laid out, is a curiosity gap is just simply creating a question or multiple questions in the viewer's mind that only watching your full video can answer. So, it's closing. What am I going to do? It's like, well, what is TCap going to do? Like, what happens? How is he going to solve this problem? What happened? A Mr. Beast video, I don't think, just to make one up, is like, dodge this train, win a Lamborghini. It's like, did he dodge the train? Does he win the Lamborghini? Simple stuff like that. But yeah, like questions that, okay, well, I can only answer this question that's coming up in my mind by watching this video.
And to add to that with like the Mr. Beast component is he adds such high stakes on it. So it's you're even more drawn. And so like in Warzone or in gaming, it's something like, you can add the stakes of, like it's down to a 1v1. Am I gonna win the game? And so it's something often simple like that is can you pull off the win, or is you making a claim early on, like pulled off my most epic clutch. People, okay, well, what is this guy's most epic clutch?
Yeah. Or like a prize at the end, right? Mr. Beast's like $1 million or $10,000.
Exactly.
Just like, oh my God, is this person going to win this in like life-changing amount of money? Cool. Okay. And you mentioned in the sort of recap of your story up until now that, you were a nurse, you were able to quit. I know that you have had and continue to have a lot on your plate as a creator, but as a human being, all the things that you juggle. And so I'm curious if you could share what all is on your plate currently and how you're managing all of that without burning out.
Yeah. So basically right now, so I am no longer working as a nurse. I do maintain my license. It's active. Thankfully in the state of Ohio where I am, you don't have to actively work. You can just do continuing education and keep your license. So I'm doing that to kind of keep that on the back burner and, have that there because I did, have a bachelor's degree and cranked up a lot of school debt for that. So I don't want to completely waste it. Otherwise, I am still a full-time content creator with, doing Call of Duty Warzone type content. And then more recently, so probably right at the beginning of 2025, actually started getting into personal training. So I got certified as a personal trainer. And have opened my own kind of online personal training business, have a now separate fitness channel, the TFitX channel, which is going really well. And kind of the way that stemmed was, so I graduated college in 2017. I was a college athlete at a small D3 school, played college football. Was in awesome shape then. Very quickly, I stayed in okay shape when I graduated, but then when COVID hit and when I was making this kind of grind to grow, very quickly, I got out of shape, and my physical and mental health as well really took a hit. And so, the positive thing there's a trade-off is that I grew my social media, the bulk of my social media to what it is today. It allowed me to go full time, work an absolute dream job, and I would still do it again if I had to, for sure. But I, very quickly realized, probably within a year or two, that I was like, man, I need to change something. I went from being the guy that was the great athlete. I'm a nurse. I had a minor in nutrition, and like, what am I doing with myself? And it was the first time in my life too that I actually kind of felt depressed a little bit. And I was just kind of like, I've never been this guy. Like, I've always been the happy-go-lucky guy. Like, stress rolls off my shoulders like nothing. And I'm like, what's changed? And I'm like, well, it's because I sit at a computer all day, and and at the time I was working nights, and my sleep schedule was completely screwed and whatnot. And so I recognized that. Back then, I decided to actually hire a personal trainer, and it was hands down like the biggest life-changing, one of the biggest life-changing moments I've had, just because it completely altered like the way I was going in life. And so actually, it was shortly after that my content, my streaming, everything, my relationships, physical, mental health actually got so much better because I started prioritizing myself and my health. And so we made huge changes there. Long story short, to kind of jump ahead, basically, is it built a huge passion for me with fitness. And I realized how much value this provided to myself. And so more and more over the years, I've just really just, when I have free time, like when it's just like, what do I watch on YouTube? It's fitness stuff. Like, it's rarely Call of Duty stuff. Not that I, despise Call of Duty, but it's like, I get so much of it because I play it, and create content around it, that like, not that I'm burnt out on it per se, but it's just, I don't want to spend even more time doing it. I want to kind of like separate myself. And so when I have, people ask me, they're like, what other video games do you play? I'm like, I have played like maybe 2 other video games besides Call of Duty in the last 5 years. I play Call of Duty. I enjoy Call of Duty. But when I'm done, if I'm not streaming, making content, I want to go outside, and like, cause that makes me happy. I've just connected those dots. And, so yeah, I just developed this huge passion for it. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to turn this passion into something, because just like back in 2020, when I was obsessing over getting better at Call of Duty and making content, I was like, I notice I'm starting to kind of get obsessive about like, how do I make my fitness better? How do I dial my nutrition more? How do I get more out of this? And I wanted to learn. And I was applying kind of like my nursing science background to this as well that I'd already had. And so eventually my wife was like, go get certified, start training on the side. Like, you could do it, because I was already kind of like training family and friends basically for free, just kind of helping them with their routines and plans. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. I'm going to go do it, because I'm so just, it's what I think about. And, thankfully getting certified for me was kind of a breeze because of my nursing background and all my just natural kind of studying I had done through watching so much YouTube content from other science-based creators, Mike Israetel, Jeff Nippard, Mind Pump, different creators like that. So by the time I did it, it was just like, well, that was pretty easy. I'm certified now. But from there, it was a very unique and new challenge. And I was like, how the heck do I start a business out of this? Because, the YouTube content creator business is just generally like, the more views you get, the better you're going to do. There's an aspect of brand deals, but like, I have an agent for that who kind of like handles all that for me. And like, as long as I'm getting as long as I'm getting views, people are going to reach out. We're going to connect, and income's going to kind of take care of itself as long as I'm making good content. When it comes to like something like personal training, or, this is very entrepreneurship, is like, they teach you like, okay, this is how you, make a client have results, but they don't teach you jack crap. Can I cuss on here? Is that allowed?
Yeah.
Okay. They don't teach you jack shit about how to like run a business or how to even like get clients. And I'm like, well, I know how to do social media because I've learned that, because that's been my job the last few years. So, let's start applying that. And so I started learning kind of the new aspect of making fitness content, which is very, very different, but it does also have similar ideas. So like when we talked at the beginning about creating curiosity gaps and hooks and stuff like that, it's like, okay, the same thing applies, but how do I turn that to fitness and make someone be like, oh, what value am I going to get out of watching this video? And then provide them with value, just like I try to do in my educational content. So kind of sorry for the tangent, to get back to your question of, what keeps me so busy. So right now, like a typical day for me looks like managing a combination of making content for both my fitness channel, and then also for my TCaptainX gaming channel, managing my actual online personal training clients, which, I run everything through an app. So I'm creating their workout routines, nutrition guidelines, talking to them, having weekly check-ins with them so we can make adjustments on the fly. And then like today, for example, I had a post kind of blow up, which is a good problem to have. And I have like 8 sales calls booked this week about potential clients. Nice. So it's an awesome problem to have. And that's where I kind of mentioned I'm so busy because I'm kind of juggling 2 jobs right now. But both jobs are pretty awesome. I get to do, help people with their fitness and improve their health and goals. And then I get to play video games for a living and make content around it. So, I'm not complaining that I'm busy, but I am definitely busy between those. And then at the end of the day, I really value my own just like well-being and stuff. And so like, I am someone who like, I'm not going to sacrifice my own sleep. I get up early at like 6 a.m., but I also go to bed really early at like 9:30 kind of thing. I take my time to make my good meals. I take my time to go for walks and get activity, do my own workouts, spend time with my wife, do all those things. So it is tough when you're trying to balance all of those things, kind of 2 different jobs plus your own just lifestyle, well-being, seeing your family and friends is you stay busy. And it's a good thing. I'm never bored. I always have something to do at the end of the day.
I bet. This is so good. I didn't quite know that we were going to go here. I really appreciate you sharing that journey and how it's led you to here. And so there are sort of 2 things I want to unpack here. One, just the personal health side of things. And 2, you bring up a really, I think, common and fascinating phenomenon when it comes to creators trying to build businesses for themselves. And you shared that sort of in the past, or sort of just with Call of Duty content in general, the business is, okay, brand deals, sponsorships, but, predominantly it's get more views and more subscribers, more AdSense, and then, potentially more sponsors, etc. So like the service is the content. The service you're providing like is the content that you create, or like that's the product, predominantly the product. But in starting a service business, something like personal training, the content is now the vehicle. It is now the marketing for the product. It's not the product itself. It's it's both. It's its own product, because there will be people who come to your fitness content and they just want the fitness content. They're never going to work with you, or like they're most likely never going to work with you. They're like lurkers. They just want to get educated or be inspired, etc. But then for the business to be solvent and profitable, like you need a vehicle. Like you have to drive traffic and you have to have sales calls booked on your calendar. So it's like it's the same game, totally different frame and totally different purpose for this. And that's why I love something like YouTube, where it's like, it is the product, it is the marketing, it's like everything all in once. So that's really, really cool. And we have creators in Grindstone who sometimes really struggle with that. I guess a better way to articulate maybe the difference that I heard in, this comes from the E-Myth by, I'm blanking, but the E-Myth Revisited, which is like a bit like one of the Bibles of entrepreneurship. And he breaks down working in the business, like the technical side, like being a technician, you're baking the cakes, you're making the Call of Duty videos. And then there's working on the business, which is you like how to organize your back end, how to get clients, how to get customers. Like, you're not baking the pies, you're in the back room, like with the spreadsheets, like how am I going to keep my bakery alive? How am I going to pay taxes, etc. So working in the business and working on the business. That's sort of what I heard you separate there. And that became visceral in now making your fitness content.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to be very transparent, what has helped me so much with the working on the business part, because I felt pretty confident in my ability to train someone to give them results. I started with family and friends, and very quickly within just like 1 or 2 months, I was like, okay, I've got this down. Like, is there room to get better? 1000%. But like, I can give these people sustainable results and a plan that works for them. But then you very quickly run out of family and friends. And it's like, and, also like when I first started, like I was reaching out to people like, and I'm like, hey, I will train you for like $20 a month. And like, which is a joke, like as far as, but I'm just like, I want you to pay me something, that way it's not free. That way you feel like you're paying for something tangible, and going from there. And so what I ended up doing, which has been a game changer, is I'm in like a mentorship course that is specific to growing an online personal training business. It was definitely a big investment. I was very hesitant and scared to do this, because then I was kind of like making this big commitment that, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to turn this into a legitimate thing. And, but it's been a game changer for me for sure, because, and it's allowed me to also really leverage off of the current skills I already have. Because I already know how to do social media, which is, again, like you said, kind of the marketing aspect. But I also have this huge community that I've grown through my TCaptainX gaming. So I was like, how do I leverage this? And, do I just shout into the world and say, come hire me, be my, let me be your trainer. But instead it was actually, understanding the process around like how to be good at sales. You actually have to like that is a whole technique in itself that like I had no idea how to do. And I sucked at it at first. But now like after just more reps and then actually hearing feedback from people, literally recording my sales calls and going back, I have learned so much. And that alone has probably been the most valuable tool for myself. But then also learning like how to get more leads so that you can book more calls on like how to do lead generation. Because I had the content part relatively down. That wasn't hard. And so like, okay, I'm getting views, I'm getting followers, but how do you turn those into a potential sales call? What kind of techniques are you doing for that? And so, yeah, for me right now in this part, it has been all about working like on the business and the part of trying to grow that aspect, definitely getting better at the actual business itself. But there's ups and downs. There's definitely, parts where you feel like, bam, you have like, so like right now I'm at a very high up part because I had a post that just went, it was very direct and I got a lot of people reaching out being like, I'm interested, I want to hear more. And I'm able to book a lot of sales calls. And then you have other times where it's like, you have no calls for a whole week and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But it's been at a point where it's been slow and steady growth. And I'm at the point now where I'm actually like, you know what, this is actually turning into a legitimate business. Like I can see the runway and see the future of this long term. And then where it's been getting interesting lately is like, okay, how am I balancing TFitX personal training with TCaptainX gaming has been a very, very interesting thing. And kind of the last thing I want to do is give up on TCaptainX and just stop. That's never my plan. But I do see from a long-term standpoint of kind of like dialing back a little bit on the gaming stuff. And the short answer as to why is like, it's a freaking dream job. It's not that I want to quit it, but I don't have as much of the passion for playing video games as much as I now do for fitness. And so for me, at the end of the day, I'm just following my passion. And especially part of it, not to like, I definitely can take responsibility myself. But part of it is Call of Duty itself is a very up and down type game. It has moments where it's like the game's great and it's super popular and views are really high. And then there's moments where the game is just like meh. And this year has kind of been a meh year especially compared to last year. And so part of that is I'm just like, man, like I hate that. I still love being able to do what I do, but I'm just like, I'm not like thrilled to go do it as much as I am anymore. I still love being able to stream, have my community interact with those people. But I'm not as passionate about creating the content around it when less people, I guess, care about it and whatnot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And you talked about questioning how to promote this new, I don't know if you would call it a pivot, but like addition to what you were previously doing, TFitX. How did you start to promote it? Like, how did you go from family, friends, selling it for cheap, which I'm a huge proponent of. That's how I've done any of my entrepreneurial endeavors. Like, give it away for free. Like, just get the reps, learn how to do it, get testimonials, get reviews, get feedback, and then do it for cheap, and then less cheap, and less cheap, and less cheap.
Mm-hmm.
No, now premium, now like low expensive, and then you can just keep going up from there. But how did you go from 0 to 1 online with content? And I'd also love to dive into like your posts now. Like, what do your calls to action look like?
Yeah. So my first client was actually because we were hosting a birthday party at my house and one of our good family friends was there and we were just chatting and they were like, what are you up to? I'm like, oh, I'm actually finishing up getting my certified personal trainer. They're like, oh, why are you doing that? Like, I thought you do the YouTube stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I do, just kind of following it for fun. And they were like, I would love to work with you. And I'm like, cool. I was like, I will train you for dirt cheap and you'll be my first client. And so that was my first client, and they're still with me, to today. So like 6 months later or whatever, so however long it's been. And then from there, a lot of my early first few clients were actually very close people in my gaming community. So a lot of like my moderators, people that are super active in like my Discord that I talk to on a pretty much daily basis. And I just put out, I was like, hey guys, if any of you guys want to train with me, I will train you super duper cheap, and would love to just get some experience and go from there. And so literally, like you said, it was like started super cheap, just reaching out and just telling people, hey, I'm doing this, guys. If you're interested, no pressure. You'll be my guinea pig, but you'll get an awesome rate, and going from there. And then it was probably once I was like a month or two in, and I was like, okay, I have like the framework. I know how to onboard a client. I know how to, smoothly build them their program, their nutrition and whatnot. I'm like, okay, let me actually announce this like to my community and just say, hey, I'm starting this new channel and I'm also doing this if anyone's interested. So I actually literally posted something on Twitter, and then I made like a YouTube community post and was just like, hey guys, I'm making a new fitness channel. If you want to drop a follow, go for it. It's going to be like educational content. I'm also doing online personal training. And if you're at all interested, reach out and let's talk. And so just from that, I had a handful of people. And, within like 2 months, I was probably up to like 10 clients or so. Again, a lot of them getting nice discounts and stuff like that. But it was enough where it was still like, I was learning a ton and I was getting a little bit of money in return out of it. And something, I believe you're a Hormozy fan, he has his whole thing is your first year is your learn year, not your earn year. And so that was kind of my goal with a lot of my first clients. And even to this day, I'm about 6 months in, I'm probably charging below what like the standard going rate is. It's competitive to point, because my goal is right now, like, let me just build my client base, because I know long-term referrals is going to be absolutely huge in a space like this. So kind of fast forward a few months and kind of more to today, I'm posting regularly, probably at least 3 to 4 kind of reels, shorts has mostly been my thing. I do a little bit of long form on it, but they're lower effort videos, and they're high quality in terms of the amount of information you can learn, but they're usually very simple. Like it's like kind of like the Dr. Mike Israel style, where it's just I'm sitting in front of a camera and I have a PowerPoint up and I'm just explaining a process, like how to build muscle, how to lose fat, whatever the topic is. And so what I've done to help kind of bring people in is kind of through like lead generation and lead magnets is I'll put really simple CTAs at the end of a short. Like, let's say the video is around building muscle. And I'm saying, do this to build more muscle, XYZ. Here's the thing. If you want more info, DM me muscle and I'll send you a free guide. And that guide is me linking them my long form YouTube video of me talking, more extensively into it. Because normally if you can get someone to watch, I forget the exact numbers. I think they say it takes like 7 pieces of content for someone to see that they're like bought in, usually to potentially purchase something from you. And so if I can get someone to consume, a 20-minute YouTube video, that's just adding to that buy-in of them being like, oh, this guy seems like he knows what he's talking about. He's knowledgeable. I'm gaining information from this. And then at the end of that video, if someone watches all that through, I'm going to say, hey, by the way, guys, if you are unsure where to start, I do online personal training. There's a link in the description where you can apply for free and we can talk. And so just building from that. And so I have several different videos I refer people to. I have things like, here's your optimal workout split or different splits. Here's a fat loss guide, a muscle building guide, how to improve your sleep, XYZ. And so whenever I make a short that's related to any of those, I'm usually putting a CTA that says, DM me for this, here's a free guide. And so just building that trust with people is really important. What has worked? So like, yesterday I posted a post that was very direct. And I said, I'm looking for gamers who want to transform and level up their health IRL. And I said, this is how it is. I'm going to build you a custom workout plan that is unique to you, that fits your busy schedule. I'm going to build you a nutrition plan that's easy to follow and is sustainable. And I'm trying to remember the rest of the post. And basically at the end, I just say, if you're interested, DM me the word level up and I'll send you more info. And so I posted a Instagram reel, a YouTube short of that. And then I also posted it on X and on my YouTube community post. And so it's like, I was hoping to get just like maybe like 4 or 5, and I've gotten like 15 or 20 responses that I'm like, oh my gosh. So now I'm just like booking calls like crazy, but it's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
And now for me, I'm in a unique situation because I'm able to leverage off of my TCaptainX community. I have like 10,000 followers on X. I have 700,000 on YouTube, and although I like to kind of state my numbers are maybe a little artificially inflated on YouTube because of how much I grew during shorts. So an example, if you're in the Call of Duty space, I have more subscribers than like Joe Woe, but Joe Woe is a much larger creator than myself. And that is because 95% of his growth has been long form and streaming. Whereas for me, I've had a handful of short videos that just went bonkers viral and had a great CTA and they followed. So my sub count is a little bit higher than what it may actually be. But regardless, I have a large following and I've been able to leverage off of that. So even if you don't have that following, you know, if something I could have done, which I really haven't gone into yet, maybe I will, is, you know, I probably have 1,000 contacts in my phone. You can message every single person in there, even if you haven't talked to that person in 5 years, and say, hey man, how's it going? Like, hope you're doing well. I'm doing this. If you're at all interested, let me know. And yeah, maybe 90% of the people are going to ignore you, but you never know how many people might start. Or, you know, you train your uncle for free, and then your uncle's like, oh, let me get my work buddy. Like, he'd be interested in this. So just using, you know, like people like Hormozy, they talk about like, you know, you have to outreach and DM like 100 people a day if you want to be successful. I thankfully haven't had to like cold sales call, DM outreach a bunch of people because I've been able to leverage off my community, and I've had mostly people reaching out towards me, which has been beneficial because it allows me to like save that time to keep working on my TCaptainX gaming stuff and whatnot. But I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. You can put the time in and you can make anything have results.
It's a really fascinating example of, I'll just use the word pivot. Again, it's more of an addition. You're not like, I'm done with Call of Duty and I'm moving to fitness. But it sounds like you really executed it well in terms of like, hey guys, I know this is a totally different space, right? I'm starting this fitness content niche service. Totally understand if no one is interested, but this is what I'm doing. It was like it sounds like, and I hadn't seen like the exact post, but it just sounds like a genuine like a barbecue invite. Like, hey, I got this thing going on over here. If anybody is at all interested, you know, I'll be here. Here's where you can find it. Here's what to do. And the pipeline was cool. So a short that leads to hopefully a DM, direct message, which is like, you know, that's a more friction than just clicking a subscribe button or liking the video. Like they have to like go potentially to a different platform and type a message and like engage a conversation. Real quick on that, do you use like mini chats or some sort of service that automatically replies and sends the thing? Or
not yet. I know a lot of people do stuff like that, and long term, if I, you know, really want to scale this, I will look into that. But right now I'm handling it all myself.
Gotcha. Okay. And then that sends them to a long form YouTube video that
Correct.
Then if they watch till the end, they finally it's like they get to the buried treasure that is TCap's fitness one-on-one personal training. So it's just fascinating because that's a lot of friction to have somebody go through. But as I hear it, you're making sure that anybody who does make it to the very end of that is a very quality lead. Like they're super bought in, they're super interested, and they've gotten a ton of value by that point.
Yeah. And one thing that I've been learning that's interesting is, so like, for example, when I made my YouTube community post, I've had a lot of like, I had like someone who I could immediately tell was, you know, younger, like probably like a young teenager. And he's like, the first thing he said, because I actually, you know, I messaged people and I'm like, hey, like I saw you're interested, would love to talk more about your goals. And the first thing they say is, this actually TCap? I'm like, yes. They're like, this isn't some AI. I'm like, nope, it's TCap. What's up? And he's like, no way. So I'm like, you know, someone like that, I very quickly can probably see it's not like a quality lead that's, you know, seriously interested. And I'm like, hey man, just by the way, like, how old are you? I'm 13. I'm like, okay, totally cool.
Try to get
like,
jacked.
Listen, yeah, like cool. And you know, not that I'm like against working out with people or working with people that are under 18, but I'm very direct. I'm like, hey, you know, just so you know, there's a financial component. Your parents need to be involved with this. You know, are they even aware? And 9 times out of 10, it's like, no. And they're like, oh, I don't have a job. I'm like, yeah, I know, you're 13. And so, you know, stuff like that. But so here's the cool thing is, like, you know, like you said, some people, they're going to watch my stuff and they're never going to at all ever be a potential client, and that's fine. And there's still tons of free knowledge and free value on the page. And, as an example, in like I did a video breaking down the different workout splits. And I give people a free sample workout of like a really awesome beginner to moderate level workout that anyone can do. And I'm like, hey, go check this video out. There's a free workout in there. And then go watch this video. This will give you an idea where to start with your nutrition and start there. And good luck. You got it. If you have questions, you can shoot me a DM kind of thing. So that is part of it. And then, like I've even, I've had people that they'll say, they're like, by the way, like I'm from India and I can't afford anything and like nothing. It's just, the price difference from the US dollar to whatever the Indian currency is. And I'm like, hey, that's totally cool. Just to be, I appreciate you being transparent about that. I do have different options of kind of tiers and stuff. But I'll be very direct with them and I'll be like, my, absolute cheapest thing, which doesn't even involve one-on-one coaching, is just kind of like a PDF program you can buy is like here. It's very low cost. I'm like, is that even in your ballpark? And usually they're like, oh, even like that's pushing it. And I'm like, okay, like no worries. Like, if you're interested in this, like we'll talk, but probably the one-on-one coaching program may not be for you. And so that's also kind of where, I'm a one-man show right now. I don't have a sales team or, a virtual assistant or like an AI chat that's like helping handle this. So I do have to try to be smart with my time. I am trying to get as many calls in as possible because it's good reps for me. I'm getting better at how to do sales calls and learning that. But at the same time, there is kind of trying to filter some of these leads of what's a quality lead. Like you said, when people go through all the things and they get to the buried treasure, that's almost always going to be a pretty quality lead. Versus when I make a very large post on my gaming platform that the majority of my audience is like 15 to 23, like in that range. A lot of them may not have the means to do it. You got to kind of sort through that.
Yeah. Makes total sense. And I don't know if I'm backtracking here, but in talking about giving a service away for free or cheap in the beginning, one of the things that came to mind, especially for a big content creator such as yourself, is that also provides an opportunity to create sort of a flywheel with content. And we've been talking about Alex Hormozi. I am a huge fan of Alex Hormozi. It sounds like you are as well. There's a lot of Hormozi-isms in everything that you're describing, particularly around like goodwill, like give away the house, give a lot of free value, just like build goodwill so that people trust you and like want more of your stuff. He talks about flywheels, which is something like every single thing that happens within the business should relate to one another. And so, for example, okay, you or another person starts their service for cheap or free, and it's just like, I'm not making a lot of money from these people. It's like, no, you're not, but there's so much more that can be gathered here. Not just what we talked about earlier, like testimonials, feedback, reviews, referrals, etc. But also if you're making content, you now have like regular stories and experiences from like, hey, like constant idea flow, kind of, which is like, oh, I was doing this with, I had a personal training client who struggled with this, right? Like he was a ex-baseball player, really had a shoulder injury and was struggling with building muscle. So this is what we did about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, boom, that's a, I have no idea if that would actually be a good video, but I'm just making this up on the spot. So,
no, what?
Well, then, that one's free. You can use that.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a lot of the content that I try to make is actually geared back towards the clients I already have. So as an example, like this week, there must be like the spring sickness cold is going around. And I had like 4 of my clients are like, I've got a really bad cold type viral thing this week. And so I haven't done it yet, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a video on what do you do when you're sick? Like, how do you do that? Or, it's, shoulders and knees and hips are all common problems that a lot of people have. And so, how do we work out around injuries? Like you said, building, warm-up routines and like stretches that you can instantly. One of the coolest things you can do with someone is show them a stretch or a mobility, like warm-up kind of priming drill. And they're just like, bam, my pain went away. And so if you can provide that instant value to someone, they're like, oh, I got this off one video. Like he gave me this much value. They're more bought in to at least drop you a follow and keep following along your content. And then again, maybe turn into a customer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. It's great. Flywheel for service and constant idea generation, like just looking at your calendar. It's like, oh, like what were the sessions and the calls that I did over the last week? And just like, oh yeah, we focused on this during that session. It's like, boom, that's an idea. Oh yeah, this person was struggling with this, and that's an idea. We are currently doing this in Grindstone, right? Where like every week we just like talk about what our coaching sessions with our creators have looked like. And that's where we gather ideas for like, well, this is clearly what people are struggling with. Let's talk about it. And then the flywheel being whatever the service is. It's like, oh, and by the way, right? So it's like, here's not just valuable content for you. It's also just like subliminally telling you that I work with these types of people. You're probably, if you're listening to this, you're probably also this type of person. So if, you want to be one of these stories, or you want some similar piece of value, or to like get one-on-one help like this, yeah, feel free to blah, 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 CTA. And to sort of pivot back into tips, strategies for creators themselves, I think this is a good segue coming from the health component of this. A lot of aspiring content creators who are listening to this or watching this, whatever, all three of them, they spend so much time sitting in here at the desk in a chair. They're probably balancing some sort of 9-to-5 job where they're also sitting in a chair doing some sort of work or on calls. You have made it your thing, and also like have deep personal experience that you shared with us in this conversation. I am a creator. Like I have my job, and then I have content, all of which keeps me in this chair. What do I do to just become a little bit healthier, not just mentally, physically, all of the above? Like, what are the sort of 101 components that you would suggest that I do?
Yeah. So the cool thing is, I think I'm very well fitted to answer this question, because my like niche of client that I've settled in on, which is, I'd be dumb not to, is gamers in content creators. And so 99% of my clients, they sit way more than they should. And so a lot of people will say, that sitting is probably one of the worst things you can do for your health in general. And so the opposite of sitting is standing and walking. And so one of the simplest things you can do is just break your day up with, if you can get in 3 5 to 10 minute walks a day, and just break some of those long sitting sessions up, get blood flow moving. And that alone is just like, and go get sunlight. That alone is one of the biggest, like low hanging fruits you can do that you can see instant results in terms of your energy, your mood, all of that. Some other things would be, as far as what sitting does from kind of a physical standpoint, is it leads to your hip flexors are constantly in a shortened position. And so just doing some very basic like hip flexor type stretches in hip mobility work. So a common one that I like to prescribe is called a 90-90. It's where you kind of get on the floor. You have your front leg out bent at 90 degrees. Your back leg is back at 90 degrees. And you kind of lean your chest over that front leg. And so it's going to stretch kind of the side of your hip and kind of your glutes, which is something that gets very tight when you sit for a long time. So between some hip flexor work, some hip work, literally spending as little as 2 to 3 minutes a day to do something like that is an absolute game changer as far as just low back pain, and just general comfort and mobility. Other things is that, when we're sitting, we tend to be kind of very crouched over at our desk when we're typing and stuff. And so something else that when I have people that are at a desk all day, whether it's through gaming or a 9-to-5, is I will have them get a very light resistance band and take it into pull aparts, where they're just taking that band and they're pulling apart and they're activating those muscles, those traps, their rear delts, all the small muscles behind the shoulder. And what's that doing is just activating and turning those muscles on so that you kind of are going to automatically have better posture. So some really simple things like that. And, everything I just listed, that should take you like, the walking would be, maybe 15 minutes a day. And then the stretches could take you like 2 to 3 minutes. So like there, I'm asking for 20 minutes of commitment a day. And that alone can make you feel so much better from just a, pain standpoint, comfort, all that. As far as, other big things you can do, the most common thing I see when it comes to gamers specifically is usually sleep and how poor their schedule is. And also the quality, because we're staring at screens all night long. So, things like blue light blocking glasses are not a bad idea, but they're definitely not a cure-all. Like my prescription glasses have a blue light film. It's helpful. Definitely can reduce some headaches if you stare at screens all day long, and especially at night. I do have the super nerdy like amber blue light glasses, which I will try to put on in the last hour or two of the day. And so like, for example, right now, I'm in grind mode. And so like I'm working kind of all day, all night. And so when I'm doing work the last few hours of the day, I've got my nerdy, amber light blocking glasses on, which are super blue light blocking, and they kind of tint everything to this orange hue. And that can play a massive role in just when it's ready to go to bed for you kind of down regulating and getting to sleep quicker and having better quality of sleep. I will say though, a lot of people, they like to get their gaming in late at night, and that's totally cool. But it can make a world of a difference to give yourself at least just 30 minutes to not have screens in that last kind of as you're winding down for bed. Have lights down low. If you are going to watch something, you can do night shift mode where it kind of turns it to a orange hue, really turns down the brightness and the blue light. That can do some major things, but really trying to avoid screens and just like the last 30 minutes can be major. And then doing something that is not, mentally stimulating in the last hour or so of the day. So everyone loves to watch their Netflix shows at night, and I'm guilty of it too. But really after a certain time, for me, like after 9 p.m., I'm like, nope, I'm done watching. I'm audiobook or a podcast. And so, just listening to something that's calm and that's not overly mentally stimulating to help you really get into that kind of turn that parasympathetic mode on, which is that rest and digest, is huge for sleep quality. Another thing would be setting a bedtime alarm and developing a bedtime routine. So everyone talks about the morning routine. You saw that the viral was Asher Hall, whatever his name is, Ashen Hall. And he's doing this crazy, goofy stuff, splashing water in his face. And like some of those things you can dive into, there's some value there. But what would be far more valuable is develop a bedtime routine where it's like, okay, I have an alarm that goes off on my phone about an hour before I need to be in bed and trying to go to sleep by. And so what that looks like is you're turning all the lights off, you're putting your screens down, you're, starting to either play, chill music or, there's a guided meditation sleep walkthroughs. A really valuable tool that I use, not affiliated with it, but it's called brain.fm, Brain FM.
Yeah.
It's basically, so it's like a neural beats that there's a focus mode, a sleep mode. It kind of puts your brain in that state of wanting to do that. So like when I'm working, I have focus on all the time. It's been a game. I'm very ADHD. It's a game changer for me, so I can focus. But the sleep one is very valuable. So doing things like that, avoiding a huge meal right before bed, some very light static stretching where you're, not trying to like stretch, but you're just deep breathing, doing some. So, like I said, with those hip mobility stuff, it's a great time to do it is about an hour to 30 minutes before bed. Just do some very light, casual stretching will really help kind of turn your brain off a little bit and kind of just get into that rest and digest mode. And really trying to also, for me, like it's hard because I'm in this like grind mode of I'm balancing TCaptainX and I'm balancing TFitX, and I'm always thinking about content ideas and what I need to do for my business to grow XYZ. And so really trying to have that time at the end of the day where you practice gratitude and you stop trying to like be like, okay, I'm done thinking about the business or whatever tasks I need to do. And I don't necessarily journal, but like it sounds goofy, but so it's impossible for you to be thankful and anxious at the same time. Those two parts of the brain work in basically the same center, so you can't do both. So if you are feeling anxious or worked up and you can't wind down, literally just think, okay, what are 3 things I am thankful of? And so, for me, it's like, I have this great house and great family and I'm healthy and I get to do this amazing job. And, I actually, even though I feel like I'm stressed and my life is so hard, my life is probably 10 times better than what the average person is going through. And I'm far more, lucky and well off than a lot of other people are. So, I could go on, but those are some things off the top of my head. I guess the last thing of like, what's the biggest bang for your buck if you're willing to put the time in is just a little bit of strength training. Literally like twice a week, you could strength train for 30 minutes and you could have a massive difference for that alone. People often think they're like, oh, like if I'm going to get into working out, I got to go to the gym 6 times a week for an hour. I got to do cardio and I got to eat salads. And it's so far from the truth. It is just so far. People are so surprised. And a lot of people, when they come to me, they're like, all right, I'm ready to do my 6-day routine. I'm ready to get after it. Whatever. And I'm like, no, we're not working out 6 days a week. And if we are going to work out 6 days a week, your workouts are going to be crazy short. And so just understanding how to apply that intensity and balance it. Like if you're in a very stressful place in your life and you're like, yeah, I'm getting 6 hours of sleep a night. I've got kids. I'm growing a business. I'm in school. I'm super stressed, and be like, okay, now's not the time for you to go be a bodybuilder. Now's the time for just like take care of your health and do the least amount of work required to get the largest results. So I'm really big on like, what's the least we can do to elicit the greatest response.
On that, real quick, let's say someone is very busy. They don't have the time or interest or capacity to find their local gym and get a membership and start going there. They don't want to work out 6 days a week, like you said. I can see in your background you have a dumbbell set and those sort of adjustable, sort of like customizable dumbbells.
Yeah.
What are some like simple, maybe hopefully cheap pieces of equipment, if they need any at all, if someone wants to do a little bit of resistance training?
So the dumbbells behind me that you can see are called Power Blocks. Again, not affiliated with them, but it's what I recommend to most people. You can get them where they adjust from anywhere from 5 to 50 pounds on Amazon for like, it's like $340 maybe. So they're not super cheap, but they're not horrible by any means. It's a lot cheaper than getting individual dumbbells. If you have that, so basically 0 to 50s, that alone, you'd be amazed at what you can do with between that, a little bit of body weight. I have actually several clients that literally all they have an adjustable bench. They have one of those like $20 pull-up bars you put on a door frame, and they've got those dumbbells, and they have seen amazing results from literally, that's it. That's literally all they have. And so that was actually a video I posted not long ago. I was like, can you see good results with only dumbbells at home? And so I've got a handful of people that they're just like, one of the guys, he does asphalting. And so he works like 10, 12-hour days, 6 days a week. And he's just so busy. And he's like, I don't have the time and the energy to do this, but he's like, I need to, he's very thin, needs to kind of put on muscle and whatnot, put on some weight. And so for him, something that I do is actually, that's where when you do have a home setup, is working out kind of frequently, but in extremely low volume and low time. So like for him, he works out almost daily, but his lifts are no more than 15 minutes long. And so understanding how to do that and balance it and what works, because for some people, a 3-day going to the gym for an hour might be better. Other people, it's just doing something once a day for like 10 minutes is incredibly valuable. People underestimate or overestimate really how much you need to do to see amazing results. And a lot of the times when you are not dialed in with everything else, your nutrition, your sleep, less is more. So, and again, even if you don't have dumbbells or anything, push-ups, body weight squats, walking, lunges, and then, go jump on a tree and do some pull-ups. Like you'd be amazed at what you can do. And so actually that's like, I feel like I'm constantly self-promoting here, but I made a video exactly on like, how do you work out if you have no equipment or literally just dumbbells? And so that's actually another lead magnet for me, is when people have raised that concern, I'm like, go watch this video. I literally break down everything you can do with body weight or just dumbbells. And I give you an example program in there of what you could do if you have nothing. So yeah, there's a ton of options. It's just, the biggest thing is strength training is going to be 10x more valuable than cardio is in terms of your general health if you're tight on time. Cardio is still very valuable, has lots of positive benefits, but in terms of the best bang for your buck, do strength training. Whether that is calisthenics and body weight or dumbbells or you're going to the gym, just prioritize that first.
Really good. Really, really good. And without trying to repeat every single thing that you just said, I want to just sort of hit on the principles that I heard, which are consistency over quantity of time, doing a tiny amount each day, or at least most days, more often than not, would be significantly more important than like a 3-hour workout sesh done once, maybe for the month, and then nothing else. Leaving your screen, like taking breaks, consistent breaks from the desk, from the screen. I can personally share some of my favorite habits. I don't think I'm as much of a health nut as you, but I've been working out for years, and my health, wellness, fitness are pretty important to me. And without mentioning any sort of actual exercise routine of mine, the most bang for my buck habits have been not taking my phone into my bedroom at night. Like, at night, I cannot take my phone into the bedroom. It is out here. It's if I want to sit and do anything, I have to read. I have to read a book. And that sometimes is so like boring and I just get tired immediately and I just go to bed. Or sometimes it's, a great reading session and I'm reading for an hour or 2 hours, but it's like, I don't know what time it is. There's no alarm clock in my room. Like, it's just I'm just there. So easy to wind down that way. 2, a lot of mornings and then throughout the day. So I'm really glad that you said that. I'm very lucky. I live directly across the street. Like, you can see it. I can see it right now. The National Cathedral. It is this stunningly gorgeous, giant cathedral here in DC. I probably just doxed myself, so now people know where I live. But and I just go walk through the gardens, through the fountains, through the fields,
awesome.
And don't take my phone. I don't take my headphones. Like, it's kind of like being on airplane mode, like forced to be on airplane mode, or like when you're on an airplane, or people say like, oh, when I'm in the shower, I have the craziest thoughts. It's just like, yeah, because that's just you thinking. Like, you're just, there's no stimulation, there's no screens. It's become so abnormal that feels like almost like a strange experience. Like, wow, I just have the craziest thoughts when when my phone is nowhere near me. And yeah. So this all just really, really resonates and is perfect for, it sounds like, someone who is busy and doesn't have a lot of time and energy.
Yeah. And I totally agree with all your points there on the putting the phone down type thing. So for me, I'll take my phone into the bedroom, but I'm not allowed to have it in bed. It has to be up away on my dresser, which is on like the other side of the room. It's like it sits on the charger and I don't touch it. And so what I'll actually do is like, I hate reading, but I love audiobooks. So I don't like to engage my mind and actively read, but I can listen. And so for me, as soon as I'm into the room, I put my Bluetooth speakers on and play it from the charger. And then when I turn my speakers off, it's gone. I don't touch my phone. But yeah, adding to some, like I said, walking is one of the best things you can do. And you talk about that being one of the most valuable things you do. Going out, and especially the best times I like to kind of like habit stack, and when I do my walks are usually when I first wake up in the morning to get some sunlight, and then after meals are kind of the main times I like to go for walks. And these are anywhere from literally just 5 to 10 minutes usually. It's not like I'm going for a hike. But I will, in the morning, I will always usually intentionally not have my phone with me or not on my phone. And I am just kind of like going through my plans for the day. What do I need to get done? Kind of like, listing those things. And something more recently I've been doing, and it sounds goofy, I wouldn't quite call it meditating, but I'm kind of just like visualizing long-term success and where I want to be. Where do I want to be at the end of my life? Where do I want to be in 10 years? Where do I want to be in a year? And it sounds kind of like all foo-foo, but visualization is an extremely strong thing in terms of just, if you're a creator watching this and you're like, I want to make it and be able to do content full-time or whatever that may be, is it's like, okay, if you constantly are visualizing yourself there, what that looks like, then you're saying, okay, what are the actions I need to do to get there? It's not like you're going to just it's just going to magically unfold and it's going to work for you. But if you're constantly thinking about it, you will put yourself in those situations to succeed more often, is what I firmly believe. So, for me, like right now, a lot of my mind and mental capacity is really focused on growing the personal training side of things. And I'm constantly thinking like, okay, in a year from now, I want to be at this size and just have everything well automated. And, I'm able to help all these people and have all these awesome results for them. What are the things I need to do? And so because that's always on my mind, I'm seeing those opportunities throughout my day. And I'm like, you know what? This helps me get one step closer to my goal. I'm going to take action and do this. So there is, at the end of the day, you are responsible for doing that action and putting in the work and the consistency. But I am kind of a firm believer behind just law of attraction and visualization.
Well, to make it easier for creators listening to this to visualize what is possible and where they could potentially go, I'm wondering, would you be willing to take us through the revenue streams between TCaptainX and TFitX? Obviously, we've been talking about the personal training business, but like as much as you're willing to share, I would love just this is a financial audit right now. And we're gonna I'm going to make sure that, you're a legally law-abiding citizen and make sure you're claiming it.
IRS is coming after me.
Yes, exactly. They watch the show, the IRS, so be careful.
Well, with that in mind, get a good tax guy and keep track of your stuff. That does help.
Mm-hmm.
So revenue stream. So, the TFitX personal training stuff is new this year. And, just to be very transparent, which is totally fine. I believe my monthly reoccurring with that right now, and this is all pre-tax and pre-expenses for other things, just hit about 4,000 monthly.
Nice.
So definitely starting to be real money. Definitely not quite enough to go like full time because, I have a mortgage and a house and family and a lot of support, but, it is definitely getting quite solid there.
And that is, just to clarify, that is clients, but also like ad revenue from that content. What does that?
So that is purely clients. So I am currently not making any money ad revenue from my fitness social media because I have like less than 2,000 subscribers on the YouTube. Instagram's like 1,000. So, as of now, it is social media for me in that realm is purely from a marketing standpoint. I have spent a little bit on like boosting Instagram posts and stuff, nothing crazy, but I'll often throw like $5 or $10 on a lot of my posts just to boost them a little bit and get them to a kind of a newer audience. And so that is, obviously taking away a little bit from that, but it's a marketing expense. It is a write-off. So that's why, I mentioned keep track of everything you're doing. And then, so TCaptainX, and that's really my only income as far as personal training right now is just, that's kind of, occasionally I do have people that will do like paid in full for a package. I normally ask people to sign for a minimum of like 3 months or 6 months, something like that. But the vast majority are doing monthly payment plans. And that's kind of where that monthly recurring number comes from.
Cool.
YouTube is, so my income from YouTube has definitely taken a hit since Black Ops 6, which was the last Call of Duty game. Part of that is maybe the game itself. The game got off to a rocky start, but I'll also take plenty of responsibility myself because less of my, mind has been towards that now with growing TFitX. And I even kind of took a little bit of break from Call of Duty for about a month because I was just so frustrated with the state of the game and kind of played some other games for fun and made some content, some other things. So income did take a hit, but we're trying to get things back up. Last year, so we'll just lay it out on the line here. Who cares? Where last year, gross, I think I did about 180, but there's a lot of write-offs in there as far as editors, designers, different services, equipment, things like that.
Purely YouTube.
So, total. That was complete. Okay. YouTube, or that was everything. YouTube, TikTok, brand deals, did 180 gross complete. Now, after write-offs, that number comes down a good bit. So I'm definitely, not out here affording Lambos and yachts and whatnot, but it's a solid amount of money for sure. And for me, it's like, I was making more than I would nursing and doing something that I love out of it. So YouTube wise, like last year was one of my best years YouTube revenue wise. I was very consistently doing about 10K plus, like 10 to 12K for a lot of the year, from just a YouTube only. So AdSense, donations, super chats, all that, members, all that. I stream primarily on YouTube. So I recently kind of dabbled in multi-streaming with Twitch, but I make next to nothing on Twitch, just because I hadn't streamed there for like 3-4 years. Then I only more recently started streaming there again. So that's not really much of a revenue stream for me.
Why'd you go back?
After that,
why'd you go back recently?
They've made multi-streaming just more easy with more recent tools and stuff. And so I'm just kind of like, there are a handful of people that just for whatever reason will not watch on YouTube. And so just kind of like, why not kind of thing. Second largest revenue stream is definitely going to be brand deals. And like 2-3 years ago, brand deals were a huge part of my revenue because back then it was kind of the Wild West when it came to like brand deals on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Because back then you could pin linked comments. And so brands would love to run these sponsored deals and they're like, pin this comment and that'll link them directly to whatever. Now, like you can't do that. And so brands have become much more hesitant about short form brand deals. And that for me has always been my main thing. Long form is a, significant chunk of my AdSense and stuff like that. But I've never been massive in the long form space. I'll have a handful of videos kind of my like bigger evergreen type guides and things like that will do 100K plus. Some will hit as much as like 500K occasionally, but most of my bread and butter long form is like 20 to 30K typically. So they're frequent. They're not insanely high effort videos, so I am able to churn like profit after editing and stuff like that. But for me, a lot of it was the AdSense from shorts are not anything crazy, but the brand deals were really making up early on. And so I don't remember exact numbers, but I mean, we were doing at least 1 to 2 brand deals a month, and it was a minimum of like 1,500 per brand deal often. So back then, brand deals were really carrying it. Last year, brand deals came down quite a bit, but at YouTube long form AdSense came up just because MW3 was a generally solid year for Warzone. And so I was getting just more frequent videos in more general long form views, although shorts were still solid, but came down. For me, my biggest consistent brand deal revenue maker is a long-term partnership I've had with AIM Controllers, which is like a custom controller brand. So if you are a creator, like if you can find something that you are going to use on a daily basis and provides a ton of value to your audience, like start as soon as you can with something like that. I trialed around different controller brands when I was early on and eventually found AIM and like genuinely loved the product. Like I'm like, this product is better than the big names out there, the Scuffs and Battle Beavers. Like I like this product better. It's a smaller company and I'm going to stick with them. And so, just because a lot of my content, it makes it so easy to promote because a lot of my content is like, get better at the game, get better aim, stuff like that. And then I have to make things even easier to plug it is I have a hand camera. So I have a camera mounted right above me that looks down, shows my camera on stream constantly. And I also clip that in a lot of my videos and my shorts. So people are always like, yo, what is this sick controller you have? Because I have my own custom design now. I actually have 2 custom designs through AIM.
Cool.
And it literally says TCap on it. And people are like, yo, what is this sick controller you got, man? And so it becomes extremely easy to plug because people are just asking about it. Like, I don't even have to try to bring it up. People are just like, what is that controller? And then, I'm not like, AIM's been a lot of fun to work with. They've been super cool. And they're just like, you do whatever you want as far as promoting us. We don't care. And I'm like, because they've seen me get results. I've, consistently for the last few years now in revenue, as far as like commissions, I'm doing like $1,000 plus just from commissions alone per month. And so for that, like usually it's just in streams kind of take care of itself because people are asking about it. But then also I will in just every other week, I'll just take 30 seconds in a video to be like, by the way, if you want to upgrade your game, code TCaptainX and save you on a custom controller that has this and this benefit. And it's just it's natural. It does provide value. If they're not interested, no biggie. Trying to find that balance of not like, shoving it down people's throats, right, but also just speaking from experience and to be like, look, guys, like, I genuinely believe this is the best controller out there because of XYZ.
Yeah. And that's kind of the dream, right? There's this product or service that you, the creator, use on a regular basis. So you have complete conviction. You don't ever have to worry about being sleazy. It's literally as simple as this provides me value. I use this all the time. You guys see me use this all the time. So I'm very legitimate and authentic when I say I highly recommend it. And here's a code. And I'm curious if you have any other or what your list is of sort of values or non-negotiables around brands you'll work with or sponsors that you'll take on.
It's just got to be something that I would actually use, that I would actually see value in myself. So the 2 main kind of like long-term people I've worked with is AIM Controllers and then now Ghost Energy or Ghost Lifestyle. And so for me, like I genuinely thought Ghost energy drinks were one of the best ones out there. Like when they had Swedish Fish, I was like, oh, I love Swedish Fish. So I always had it. And it's like, one of those things, it's very relatable, but then they also are big, not just into the energy drinks, they're huge into the workout realm as well. So I'm like, dude, this is perfect. They have these like great tasting proteins and pre-workouts, creatine, whatever, the kind of the big bang for your buck supplements. And I'm not this person who's like, supplements are the key to getting jacked, because they're not. It's like 98% is like your workout, your nutrition, your sleep. But there is some value in there and certain ones for certain people. And so when I look at what they're using, they actually are using, science-backed ingredients that I actually know provide value. And it's not just like wishy-washy woohoo, here's whatever weird things we can make to make your skin itchy and make you super hyped. Like there's actually value in there, and they understand what they're doing, and it tastes really good. So those two brands, because even, before I was working with them, I was using them on a daily basis anyways. Otherwise, I will constantly get messages like, sell our crypto EFT. And I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't know anything about crypto or EFTs, and I don't feel comfortable doing it. And like, especially promoting it to my audience, which is mostly a bunch of like probably naive 18-year-olds and stuff. So I'm just like, that feels incredible. And like, I've been offered some decent money from some, and I'm like, oh, no, I can't do that. Sure. And then, we'll get a lot of gaming related things, like some cool deals I've got to do were like Sony. I got to do like a headphone thing with Sony. I've done Logitech, Streamlabs, which are all things that like I use on a daily basis anyways. A lot of, there will be things that they'll come and they're just like, they just don't relate. And I'm like, my audience is not going to have any value in that. Like, there was stuff about like, trying to remember some examples. Like, if other games come to me and it's like another shooter type game that is kind of Call of Duty-esque, and I'm like, that looks cool, like I might be down to play that, then I'm like, sure, like I can totally, do a demo and do a promotion for that. But then there's other times where I had people recommend games and there's like mobile, like anime RPG games, and I'm like, I would never play this. Like, I'm sorry, like, yeah, just stuff like that where I'm just like, if I'm not going to use it, then I'm just like, I'm not going to promote it.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for taking me through the TFit biz. Super helpful to actually like dive into the raw numbers. I just think it's just really useful to know what is physically possible in the space, because it can feel, I think, for people who are aspiring to go full time, it's just like what even is like, are people really doing this? Like, is it all fake? Like, are people actually supporting themselves and their families with this? So it's brilliant. And as we come to the end of this conversation, I would love to ask you a question I really like to ask pretty much any creator, which is, if you could go back and give the version of you who just started out, like year one of content creation, and you could give him one piece of advice, what do you think you would tell him?
A lot of it would probably be actually health related, because, and I'm sorry if I keep harping back on this. I saw so much firsthand the value in it. And so even if it wasn't like, I'm maybe not even being nearly as like physically active as I am now, if I was just like a little bit more regular about my sleep schedule, a little bit better about just getting some walks in, and like not door dashing so much and making my own food. Like, if I could have just done those things and do some push-ups and stuff every once in a while, maybe do a little bit of stretching, it just would have done such a big thing for my mental health. Because I remember it was so hard in Warzone 1, which is really where I grew, which Warzone 1 was about 2020 to 2022. I was just so up and like high on life because I had just gone full time in content. Numbers were booming. I was loving I was so passionate about the game. Like, I could stream for 8 hours a day if I wanted to. And it was just like, I was getting off because I'm like, okay, I need to make content. I need to spend time with my wife, that kind of stuff. And then, Warzone 2 hits in end of 2022. I just bought the house that I'm in now, which like way more expensive mortgage payment. And, the game was like a flop, and I'm freaking out. And so the only thing I did was like mope and just like sit on my computer and try to think like, I don't know what content to make on, because like the game's so bad. I don't know what to do. And I wish back then I would have had a more open mindset about it and just been like, stayed more positive, taking care of my mental health way earlier on. Because it was funny. It was like mid Warzone 2 eras when I started working with my trainer. And it was just like, it was so weird how things got so much better then, because I was just like, even though I was actually probably spending less time on the game and making content, my productivity just like shot through the freaking roof. And I just had a better mental standpoint. And I'm like, you know what? Like, whatever happens, there's going to be ebbs and flows, and I'm going to figure it out. And like, we're just going to keep staying consistent, and things will work out. And it did.
TCaptainX, you're the man. That was brilliant. I love this conversation. And where can people go to check out more of what you got going on?
Yeah, so TCaptainX on YouTube, TikTok are kind of the main platforms there. And then for all the gaming stuff. And then for the personal training stuff, TFitX on YouTube, TFit.x on Instagram. If you have any questions, want to reach out to me, Instagram's probably the easiest because of DMs. And then in there on my Instagram and on my YouTube in the description or in my bio, there is if you're at all interested in personal training, want to hear about it, there's a link in there where you can fill out a super simple application and hear more. But like I said, a lot of free value there. So if you're interested at all, check out the page, drop a follow.
Tyler, you're the man. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, Dillan. It was fun. Yeah.